Task number 3, Active Directory. Task number 3 is part of the Active Directory Basics modules, which is part of the complete beginner path on TryHackMe. The core of any Windows domain is the Active Directory Domain Service, ADDS. This service acts as a catalog that holds the information of all the objects that exist on the network. Amongst the many objects supported by AD, we have users, groups, machines, printers, shares, and many other. Let's look at some of them. Users. Users are one of the most common object types in Active Directory. Users are one of the objects known as security principals, meaning that they can be authenticated by the domain and can be assigned privileges over resources like files or printers. You could say that a security principal is an object that can act upon resources in the network. Active users, basically, right? Like, how to say this? Objects with actions, right? They can act on files and printers. On resources, this is a broader term that it's appropriate for this kind of comparison. Users can be used to represent two types of entities, people or services. People. Users will generally represent persons in your organization that need to access the network, like employees. And services, you can also define users to be used by services like IIS or MS SQL. Every single service requires a user to run, but service users are different from regular users as they will only have the privileges needed to run their specific service. Okay, so these people, let's say entity in AD, are basically, they only have access to the network, right? But for services, these are also people that have this, let's say, privilege, access on the network, but also they have access on services, specific services, and only that. Machines. Machines are another type of objects within AD. For every computer that joins the Active Directory domain, a machine object will be created. Machines are also considered security principals and are assigned an account just as any regular user. This account has somewhat limited rights within the domain itself. Machine accounts themselves are local administrators on the assigned computer. They are generally not supposed to be accessed by anyone except the computer itself, but as with any other account, if you have a password, you can use it to log in. No, the machine account passwords are automatically rotated out and are generally comprised of 120 random characters. Pretty hard to guess or crack or whatever you want. Identifying machine accounts is relatively easy. They follow a specific naming scheme. The machine account name is the computer name followed by a $sign. For example, the machine name DC01 will have a machine account called DC01 $sign. Pretty simple, right? Security groups. If you are familiar with Windows, you probably know that you can define user groups to assign access rights to files or other resources to entire groups instead of single users. This allows for better manageability as you can add users to an existing group and they will automatically inherit all of the group's privileges. Security groups are also considered security principals and therefore can have privileges over resources on the network. Groups can have both users and machines as members. If needed, groups can include other groups as well. Several groups are created by default in a domain that can be used to grant specific privileges to users. As an example, here are some of the most important groups in a domain. We have the security group and we have the description columns, right? For the security groups, we have domain admins, server operators, backup operators, account operators, domain users, domain computers, and domain controllers, the principal ones, right? And now we have Domain admins, users of this group have administrative privileges over the entire domain. By default, they can administer any computer on the domain, including the domain controllers. Server operators. Users in this group can administer domain controllers. They cannot change any administrative group members, right? We can see how the privileges decrease with each group, right? Backup operators. Users in this group are allowed to access any file, ignoring their permissions. They are used to perform backup of data on computers. Account operators. Users in this group can create or modify other accounts in the domain. Domain users include all existing user accounts in the domain. Domain computers include all existing computers in the domain. And then domain controllers include all existing domain controllers on the domain. You can obtain the complete list of default security groups by here, reading the Microsoft documentation for this until this will finish rendering. Let's see. Active Directory users and computers. To configure users, groups, or machines in Active Directory, we need to follow in to the domain controller and run Active Directory users and computers from the start menu. Okay, so I guess we'll go into the practice. Until then, let's see here. You can see actually it's not that hard to find. If you type Active Directory security groups on Google, you should basically see, you can see it over here is the first link, and here you can read more about them. Now let's open up the split view and let's go over here. You can connect if you have the TryHackMe subscription. You can actually access this for free, but you can use your own machine with via the VPN and use, I believe, X-free. This is the command X-free RDP, and I believe U is for let's see, administrator, and P is for password 321, but I believe they are like this, I think. Let's see what will happen. Okay, server X free RDP help. Let's see what we'll get here. Here we see an example. Here we see another example. Okay, let's see what will happen if they say with a /. Okay. Server host name was not specified. Of course. Of course. My mistake. My mistake. My mistake, which you can see over here. I don't have the... Let me see if this will work. The password is incorrect. Password 321. Let me see. Password 321. Password is incorrect. Try again. Let's type it again. Let's actually see it. Password 321. Let's see what will happen. It's incorrect. 321. Username or password is incorrect. It's actually TryHackMe administrator. Okay. Let's jump again inside it. Let's see what will happen. There you go. This is it. Now that we have access to the domain controller, let's type Active Directory users and computers. Let's open this up. Okay, cool. This will open up a window where you can see the hierarchy of users, computers, and groups that exist in the domain. These objects are organized in organizational units. Here you can see on the left the hierarchy. They are organized in organizational units, which are the organizational units are container objects that allow you to classify users and machines. Organizational units are mainly used to define sets of users with similar policies requirements. The people in the sales department, which we actually can see, of your organization are likely to have a different set of policies applied than people in IT, for example, right? Here we can see people in IT. Claire, Mary, and Philip. And here we can see total different people, right? And we see 3 more departments. Keep in mind that the user can only be a part of a single organizational unit at a time. Checking our machine, we can see that there is already an organizational unit called TryHackMe with 4 children, 5 actually. IT, management, marketing, and sales. Okay, they place marketing and sales under one. It is very typical to see the organizational units mimic the business structure, as it allows for efficiently deploying baseline policies that apply to the entire departments. Remember that while this would be the expected model most of the time, you can define organizational units arbitrarily. Feel free to right-click on TryHackMe organizational unit and create a new under just for the fun of it. Okay, cool. Right-click on TryHackMe, new. And then we organizational unit, right? And we call it students. Okay, you can see. If we click the TryHackMe, we can see the type, organizational unit for students, and all, let's say 4 of them as in this TryHackMe text. If you open any organizational unit, you can see the users they contain and perform a single task like create, delete, or modifying them as needed. You can also reset passwords if needed, pretty useful for the help desk. Yes, we saw that. We saw the users, right? We saw, let's say, for instance, Mary. You can see here a lot of stuff, right? We can go to the account, user logon name, right? Here is the prefix with which we logged into this domain controller, user logon name, right? We can see here also, I believe this is the password. I think password never expires, right? We can set also more accounts options. We can end the existing account on a specific date. We can do a lot of stuff, as you can see. You probably noticed already that there are other default containers apart from the TryHackMe organizational unit. These containers are created by Windows automatically and contain the following: built-in computers, domain controllers, users, which is over here, and then managed services accounts over here. Built-in contains default groups available to any Windows host. Computers, any machine joining the network will be put here by default. You can move them if needed. Domain controllers is default organizational unit that contains the domain controllers in your network. Then we have the users, default users, and groups that apply to a domain-wide context. And then managed services, which is over here. Managed service accounts holds accounts used by the services in your Windows domain. Security groups versus organizational units. You are probably wondering why we have both groups and organizational units. While both are used to classify users and computers, their purposes are entirely different. Actually, yes, you might wonder, because you see here, this organizational unit is actually displayed like a group, right? And now we will see. Organizational units are handy for applying policies to users and computers, which include specific configurations that pertain to sets of users, depending on their particular role in the enterprise. Remember, a user can only be a member of a single organizational unit at a time, as it wouldn't make sense to try to apply two different sets of policies to a single user. Security groups, on the other hand, are used to grant permissions over resources. For example, you will use groups if you want to allow some users to access a shared folder or a network printer. A user can be a part of many groups, which is indeed to grant access to multiple resources. Right, so basically here we see the permissions of the users in terms of the department, and here is permissions in terms of resources. Answer the questions below. Which group normally administrates all computers and resources in a domain? Domain admins. What would be the name of the machine account associated with the machine name Tom PC? Tom PC dollars. Suppose our company creates a new department for quality assurance. What type of containers should we use to group all quality assurance users so that policies can be applied consistently to them? Right, so here we can see from the question, it's a group of users that will be inside a quality assurance group. And we need policies applied to them, right? This is organizational unit, right? It's not a security group. So I will say organizational units. Cool.